The city was a restless pulse that night, its neon heartbeat throbbing under a sky heavy with secrets. I'm Mara, a shadow in this urban sprawl, always watching, always catching the moments people think they've hidden. My apartment window overlooks their loft, a high-ceilinged space where the lights burn late and the truth burns hotter. I didn't mean to see what I saw, but some stories wrap around you like smoke and won't let go. This one started with a touch, a tremble, and a betrayal that lit the dark like a spark in dry grass. Her name was Elise, mid-30s, with a body that moved like a melody, and eyes that held a dangerous storm. She was married to David, a man who lived for his routine, leaving her to fill the quiet nights alone. But it was his neighbor Liam who filled the air with tension. Liam was late 20s, all quiet strength and sharp charm with hands that promised trouble. That night, David was working late, and Elise was in their loft, her silk blouse catching the soft glow of a table lamp, her hair loose and wild. Liam was there too, helping with a broken shelf, his presence like a flame too close to tinder. I was at my window, a glass of bourbon in hand, the city's hum a low buzz in my ears. Their loft was lit by warm light, the open windows giving me a front-row seat to their drama. Elise stood by the bookshelf, her blouse clinging to her curves, her laughter sharp but nervous. Liam was beside her, his toolbox open, his flannel shirt open at the collar, revealing the taut lines of his neck. "You don't need to stay," Elise said, her voice soft but trembling, carrying across the night. He grinned, slow and dangerous, and stepped closer, a hammer in his hand. My bourbon burned my throat, but I didn't look away. He reached out, handing her the hammer, his fingers brushing hers, and she froze, her breath catching. The lamplight cast a golden glow over her skin, highlighting the curve of her neck, the dip of her collarbone. "Elise," he said, his voice low, rough, like he was fighting himself. She looked up, her eyes meeting his, and I saw the spark, guilt, desire, the kind of hunger that drowns out reason. My heart quickened, my glass cold against my fingers. This wasn't just a repair, it was a fuse, and they were lighting it. Elise's hand lingered on his, her fingers tightening around the hammer, and I saw the shift in his stance, the tension in his grip. The air was heavy, electric, and I was caught in it, a witness to their fall. I lit a cigarette, the flame trembling as I watched them teeter on the edge of something they couldn't take back. The city's lights flickered outside, but their world was brighter, more dangerous, and I was drawn into its glow, unable to look away. The loft was a stage now, the lamplight casting shadows that danced with their desire. Elise stood by the bookshelf, her blouse barely holding on, the silk clinging to her curves like a lover's hands. Liam was close, too close, his hands on her hips, his fingers digging in like he was claiming something he had no right to. I watched from my window, my cigarette burning low, my heart pounding like I was the one crossing the line. The night was still, but their world was electric, alive with the tension between them. "Elise," he said again, his voice a low growl, and she shivered, her hands gripping the edge of the shelf, the hammer forgotten on the floor. "David's not here?" she whispered. But it was a lie, and they both knew it. His hand slid up her side under the silk, and she gasped, her head tilting back, exposing the line of her throat. I could see it all the way. Her lips parted, the way his fingers traced her skin, the way their bodies leaned into each other like they were starving. My cigarette ash fell, my breath caught as I watched them slide deeper into the abyss. The lamplight flickered, casting a golden glow over her skin, highlighting the sweat on her brow. His lips grazed her jaw, slow, deliberate, and she leaned into him, her hands moving to his chest, tugging at his flannel. The buttons gave way, revealing the hard lines of his body, and I felt the heat of it secondhand, but just as potent. I thought of David working late, trusting her, loving her. I thought of the life they'd built, the promises she was breaking. But here she was, letting Liam's hands roam, letting his touch unravel her. The city's hum was gone, replaced by the sounds from their loft, her soft gasps, his low murmurs, the rustle of fabric as her blouse slipped to the floor. His hands were bolder now, sliding down her thighs, pulling her closer against the bookshelf. She didn't stop him. Instead, she wrapped her arms around his neck, her breath coming in sharp, uneven bursts. My own breath was shallow, my heart racing with a mix of shame and fascination. I was just a neighbor, a stranger, but their desire was pulling me under. Liam's lips found her neck, leaving marks she'd have to hide, and she arched into him, her body yielding in a way that screamed betrayal. The lamplight caught the sweat on her skin, the tension in his arms, and I saw the guilt in her eyes, a flicker of doubt that was quickly drowned by want. My cigarette burned my fingers, and I cursed under my breath, my eyes still locked on them. The city was asleep, but I was awake, a witness to their sin, my own longing, a traitor I couldn't silence. They moved toward the couch, their bodies still closed, their steps unsteady but sure. The window stayed open, giving me glimpses of her skin, his hands the way they fit together like they'd been here before. I wanted to turn away, to close my curtains and pretend I'd seen nothing, but I couldn't. Their desire was a drug, and I was hooked, complicit in their fall. The loft was a haze now, the lamplight dimmed the air thick with their heat. Elise and Liam were tangled, her blouse gone, her body pressed against the couch, his hands claiming her like she was his. I watched from my window, my cigarette long gone, my heart pounding like I was the one in his arms. The night was quiet, but their world was loud, alive with the sounds of their desire breaths, sighs, the creak of the couch under their weight. The city slept, but I was awake, caught in their fire. "Liam," she whispered, her voice breaking, a plea and a surrender all at once. He didn't answer, just pressed closer, his lips on her throat, slow and deliberate, leaving marks that would haunt her come morning. I could see it all, the curve of her spine, the sweat on his brow, the way her legs wrapped around him, pulling him closer. My own breath caught my hands trembling as I gripped the windowsill, my eyes traitors. I wasn't supposed to feel this way, wasn't supposed to let their sin seep into me, but it did, raw and unfiltered. The lamplight buzzed, casting shadows that danced with their movements. His hands were bolder now, sliding down her body, exploring every inch, and she gasped, her nails digging into his shoulders. The sound was intimate, too intimate, and I felt like an intruder, but I couldn't stop watching. I thought of David working late, trusting her, loving her. I thought of the promises she'd made, the life she was betraying. But here she was giving herself to Liam, letting him take her apart piece by piece. His lips moved down her chest, slow, deliberate, and she arched into him, her breath coming in sharp, desperate gasps. "Don't stop," she murmured, her voice raw, urgent, and I felt the weight of it, the sin of it, like a blade in my chest. The lamplight caught the sweat on her skin, the tension in his arms, and I saw the guilt in her eyes, a flicker of doubt that was quickly drowned by desire. My window was cold, but their world was bright, electric, and I was caught in its pull, my heart racing with a mix of shame and fascination. They moved together, their bodies a rhythm that was both beautiful and damned. The couch creaked, the lamplight flickered, and I saw the urgency in their movements, the knowledge that David could return, could call, could break this moment. His hands were on her hips now, pulling her closer, and she let him, her body yielding, her eyes bright with want. The kiss that followed was fierce, hungry, a collision of desire and regret. I wanted to scream, to bang on my window and stop them, but my voice was gone, swallowed by the heat of their moment. The city was silent, but their loft was alive with the sounds of their sin-breath sighs, the creak of the couch. I was complicit, watching from the dark, my window a silent stage for their fall. The night was theirs, and I was just a shadow, a keeper of their betrayal, my own longing, a traitor I couldn't silence. The city stirred, but I was still there, stained by what I'd seen, my heart heavy with their secret. The loft was a world apart now, the lamplight fading, the air heavy with the aftermath of their sin. Elise and Liam were still tangled, her body pressed against the couch, his hands resting on her hips, possessive, reluctant to let go. The silence was thick, broken only by their ragged breaths, the soft rustle of fabric as they shifted. I watched from my window, my bourbon glass empty, my heart heavy with their secret. The city was waking, the first hints of dawn creeping in, but the weight of what I'd seen was eternal. "Elise," he said, his voice low, almost tender, but there was no tenderness in what they'd done. She opened her eyes, her gaze heavy with guilt and satisfaction, and looked at him like she was seeing him for the first time. His hand traced her jaw, slow, possessive, and she leaned into it, her body still yielding even now. The lamplight swayed, catching the glow, and I saw the marks on her skin, the way her blouse was a forgotten heap on the floor. It was over, but it wasn't. Their story would linger in her eyes, in his touch, in the lies they'd tell. I thought of David working late, trusting her, loving her, unaware of the fire burning in his loft. I thought of the life they'd built, the promises she was breaking. But here she was, tangled in Liam's arms, her body marked by his hands, her heart torn between want and regret. The guilt was there in the way her fingers hesitated before touching his face, but it wasn't enough to undo what they'd done. They'd burned too bright, and now they'd have to live with the ashes. Liam kissed her again, softer this time, like he was trying to hold on to the moment before it slipped away. She let him, her hands sliding down his chest, lingering as if she could keep him there, keep this fire alive. But the night was ending, the city waking up, the first cars humming in the distance. They pulled apart, slow, reluctant, and she stood smoothing her skirt, her blouse still on the floor. He watched her, his eyes dark, unreadable, and I felt the weight of it, the truth they'd have to carry. I stepped back from the window, my apartment dark, the city stirring outside. They'd go back to their lives, Elise to David, to the life she was supposed to live. Liam to his tools, his charm, his secrets. But I'd seen it, the fire, the fall, and it would stay with me, a wound that wouldn't heal. The dawn was breaking, but it didn't feel clean. It felt heavy, like the weight of their sin and mine. I closed my curtains, the city's lights fading in the morning haze. Their story was over for now, but it wasn't finished. It would linger in the way Elise moved, in the lies she'd tell, in the guilt that would eat at her. And I'd carry it too, a shadow across the building, a keeper of their betrayal. The city woke, but I was still there, stained by what I'd seen, my heart heavy with their secret. So what do you think? Did this story burn you like it burned me? Smash that like button if you felt the heat, or drop a comment if you've got a secret that's tearing you apart, not feeling it. Tell me why I can handle it. Subscribe for more raw, real tales that'll keep you hooked, and share this with someone who loves a scandal as much as you do. Until next time, keep those secrets tight. Or maybe let them slip.